Hi everyone. Hope you all are good. We are here for grade 5 math. You can find all the lessons on applestudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password is provided by the administrator. Then select math from the subject tab. Scroll down to grade 5 math and then click on view all lessons. Find a list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter number 3. The lessons we're going to cover today are divisibility rules, greatest common factor, least common factor, least common multiple, and then divisibility rules, word problems. Please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you can note down the important examples and definitions as well. Here I'm on grade 5 math. The chapter we are on right now is number 3. So let's just start with the lesson divisibility rules. We just apply some rules or number and see if the number is divisible by another number. You don't have to actually divide. You just have to apply the divisibility rules. So for every number, the divisibility rule is different. Like for divisibility rule is for 2 is different, for 3, for 4, so for every number, the divisibility rule is. Let's just look at the example. Is 3,744 divisible by 9? So the divisibility rule for 9 is the sum of all the digits must be divided by 9. So just add the numbers 3 plus 7 plus 4 plus 4. The sum of all the digits is 18. So now you need to see if the sum is 18. 18 is divisible by 9. Yes, it is. 9 times 2 is 18. So that means 3,744 is divisible by 9. See, you haven't divided it by the 9. You just applied a rule and in a second, we know that that is divisible by 9. Okay, let's just start with the test questions. Is 15,928 divisible by 9? So we just did learn the divisibility rule for 9. That is the sum of all the digits must be divisible by 9. So let's just find the sum of the digits. 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 35 it is. Sum of all the digits is 35. Is 35 divisible by 9? No, that isn't because 9 times 4 is 36. So that is not divisible by 9. So see, the number 15,928 is not divisible by 9. If you are very good with the multiplication tables, still you take 2-3 minutes to divide, right? But by applying divisibility rule, in a second, you know the number is not divisible by 9. Got it? Okay, the next one is 4,809 divisible by 6. Now we are going to apply the divisibility rule for 6. So the divisibility rule for 6 is the number must be divisible by 2 and is divisible by 3, right? So need to learn the divisibility rule for 2 and 3. The divisibility rule for 2 is the ones digit must be 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. So you can see the ones. That means 4,980 is divisible by 2. That is the divisibility rule for 2. Now the divisibility rule for 3 is the sum of the digits must be divisible by 3. 9 and 8, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 is divisible by 3. Yes, it is. So the number is divisible by 2, by 3. That means the number is divisible by option number 1 is the correct option. Yes, it is divisible by 6. Is 957 divisible by 2? Sorry, by 5. No, that is not divisible by 5. Why? Because the divisibility test for 5 is the ones digit must be 0 or 5. Here we have 7. So no, the number is not divisible by 5. The divisibility rule for 7 is if the ones digit is 0 and 5. That means no, 957 is not divisible by 5. Is 956 the ones digit is 6. And the divisibility rule for 2 is the ones digit must be 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. The ones digit must be 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Yes, it is divisible by 2, right? Because the ones digit is 6, so it is divisible by 2. Is 7,194 divisible by 3? So let's just see if it is divisible by 3 because we know the divisibility rule for 3 is the sum of the digits must be divisible by 3. So let's just calculate the sum of the digits. 7 plus 1 plus 9 plus 4. 10 and 7, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So 21 it is. And yes, 21 is divisible by 3. So that means 7,194 is divisible by 3. Yes, it is divisible by 3. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. The next lesson is greatest common factor. So let's just start with the greatest common factor. What is the greatest common factor of 4 and 6? We need to write down the factors of 4 and 6. So factors are the numbers that when multiplied makes 4, right? So the factors of 4 are 1 times 4 is 4, so there are 4 and 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. So these are the factors of 4, 4, 2, 1. Or you can say these are the numbers that can completely divide 4, right? And the factors of 6 are 6 and 1, and 3 and 2. So you need to find the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor is 2. 1 is also common, but the greatest number that is common is 2. So the greatest common factor for 4 and 6 is 2. Let's just start with the test questions. What is the greatest common factor for 6 and 9? That's the one we just did, but let's just write down the factors of 6 and 4. So the factors of 4. 4 times 1 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. These are the only factors of 4. Or now the factors of 6. 6 times 1 is 6. You need to write down all the numbers that when multiplied makes 6, right? Pair of numbers. Then 2 times 3 is 6. 1 is common, but the greatest number common is 2. So option number 2 is the correct option. What is the greatest common factor of 6 and 9? The easier way, when you are given the options, the easier way is select the number that can divide both the numbers. Like here you have 6. So 6 is divisible by 6, but 9 is not divisible by 6, right? You cannot divide 9 by 6. Look at the second one. 6 divided by 3, yes, the answer is 2. 9 is divisible by 3, yes, the answer is 3. So see, 3 is the number that can completely divide both the numbers. That means the greatest factor, common factor for 9 and 6 is 3. Is the greatest common factor for 6 and 10. Very good. Option number 2 is the correct option, but you can do the both the ways by writing the factors and by looking at the greatest number that can divide both the numbers, right? What is the greatest common factor of 10 and 8? So which is the correct option? Option number 1 is the correct option. 2 is the number that can divide both 10 and 8. What is the greatest common factor of 8 and 6? Again, the 2 is the greatest common factor of 8 and 6. What is the greatest common factor of 6 and 9? The greatest common factor for 6 and 9 is 3. Option number 1 is the correct option. 3 is the number that can divide 6 and 9, that can completely divide 6 and 9. What is the greatest common factor of 4 and 6? The greatest common factor of 4 and 6 is 2. Option number 1 is the correct option, that is 2. What is the greatest common factor of 10 and 4? Option number 1 is the correct option, that is 2. We are done with the lesson. Let's just move on to next lesson. The next one is least common multiple. That is least common multiple. What is the least common multiple of 4 and 10? Now we are going to write down the multiples of 10. Do not mix the multiples and the factors. Factors are the number that can completely divide a specific number. But multiples are the number that you keep multiplying, like the multiples of 4 are all the numbers that are in the table of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. You keep multiplying different numbers by 4. These are the multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Then the multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. You need to find the smallest common multiple. So the smallest common multiple is 20. Let's just start with the test questions. What is the least common multiple of 9 and 8? So when you are given the options, The easiest way to find the least common multiple is the product of both the numbers. 9 times 8 is 72. So the least common multiple of 9 and 8 is 72. So the correct option is 72. What is the least common multiple of 6 and 8? So which is the correct option? 42 and 24. Basically, now the multiple is the number that can be divisible by both the numbers, right? 6 can divide 42, but 6 cannot divide 24. So 24 is the number that can be divisible by 6 and 8. 6 times 4 is 24 and 8 times 3 is 24. So the correct option is 24. Option number 2 is the correct option, that is 24. What is the least common multiple of 6 and 7? So which is the correct option? Forty-two it is. 7 is a prime number. So when we have a prime number, that means the prime numbers have one, only two multiples, the one and the number itself. So if one of the number is prime, if one of the if one of the number is prime, then the multiple is the product of both the numbers. So that is 42. Option number 2 is the correct option. Option number 2 is the correct option. What is the least common multiple of 4 and 7? So which is the correct option, 82 or 28? That is 28. Option number 2 is the correct option. That is 28. What is the least common multiple of 2 and 11? The least common multiple of 2 and 11 is 22. Option number 2 is the correct option. What is the least common multiple of 9 and 6? Very good. Option number 2 is the correct option. That is 18. It's the least common multiple of 4 and 11. So, which is the correct option? That is 44. Option number 2 is the correct option. Very good. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself here today. Let me just move on to the next lesson. That is divisibility rules word problems. Let's just start with the test questions. Molly is arranging the photographers for her high school yearbook. She needs to put the same numbers of photographs in each row with no photographs left over. If Molly has 663 photographs to arrange, how many photographs could she put in each row? 663. You need to find a number that can completely divide 663. So, which number is it? 663 is completely divided by 3. Option number 2 is the correct option. A soda company makes different flavors of soda. Last year, the company produced the same number of bottles of each flavor. If the company produced 6,228 bottles of soda in the last years, how many different flavors could the company make? Now, you are given three of the numbers. You need to see which number this is completely divided by. Look at the number 10. The divisibility rule for 10 is the one digit must be 0. That is not. That means that is not divisible by 10. See if 6,228 is divisible by 5. No, that is not because the divisibility rule for 5 is the one digit must be 0 or 5. So that isn't. And that may be, if that then for sure that is divisible by 3. You can apply the divisibility rule for 3, 4 and 8, 12, and 6, 18. 18 is divisible by 3. Yes, it is. So 6,228 is divisible by 3. Option number 1 is the correct option 3. What there are 9,490 paper clips in the boxes in the supply cabinet. If each box contained the same number of paper clips, how many boxes there could there be? So 9,490 is divisible by. That must be divisible by 10 because the one digit is 0. So it is divisible by 10. Option number 2 is the correct option. Very good. There are 56 graders at the Dane School. There are the same number of students in each sixth grade class. How many sixth grade classes could there be at Dane School? You need to see 50 is divided by which number? The number 50 is divisible by 10 again. The correct option is 10. Option number 3 is the correct option. Lella wants to arrange 92 roses into vases. How many roses could she put in each vase without having any leftover roses? So, which is the correct option? The correct option is 4. Option number 3 is the correct option. A dish company needs to ship an order of 616 glass bowls. The company will put the bowls into several boxes. Each box must contain the same number of bowls. How many boxes could the company use for the order? The correct option is 2. Option number 3 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So we were working on grade 5 math. The chapter we were working on is divisibility. And the chapter we're working on is number 3. The lessons we have covered today are divisibility rules, greatest common factor, least common multiple, divisibility rules, word problems. So please make sure before the next session you can complete all the practice questions for the lessons we just did. That is your homework until next session. So if you need more help with any of the lessons, you can simply click on the live chat button. Tutors are available there to help you, or either you can write down the question here to answer all your questions and confusions if you have any. So you can please write down the question in the chat box. I'm here to answer all your questions and confusions. No questions. And that's all for today. See you in the next session. Bye, everyone.